What's up, everybody? So, first off, even if you have no idea what's going on in that poem, which I assure you, after all these slides are over, the lesson is over, you will. But even if you had no idea, just watching that video and hearing Bryan Cranston read that poem and the way he reads it, I mean, it's sure to evoke some sort of emotion, some sort of feeling in you. It's just so powerful, the language in that poem. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites. And ever since this whole craziness with the coronavirus has sprung up and kind of changed our lives, not kind of changed our lives, has drastically changed our lives so suddenly, so quickly, and sort of just shut down the world in a sense. Ever since all this has happened, I just keep thinking back to this poem and just how topical its themes and its message is. So I want to spend today and the next few lessons possibly, just really digging into it, dissecting it, um, you know, working with it. Sorry, that's really gross, and I apologize for you having to see that. Also, I wouldn't recommend that because of the whole coronavirus thing. I have washed my hands though, but I just had some animal crackers and they were stuck in my teeth. All right, I digress. But I just feel like this poem is extremely topical right now, especially with what's going on. So I just want to, I want to work with it for a while. I think you guys will enjoy it. So to give us some background of, who this poem alludes to, who Ozymandias is, and what the point of everything is, I've shared with you guys this article. So if you, to this side, I do believe, right there, yeah, that's it. If you just click on that link, that link, the one right there, the picture of the Google Doc symbol, it'll take you to a copy of this article. And if you would like, you could read along with me. But I would recommend, sticking with the video because not only am I going to read this, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of commentary and just kind of how I feel about things, a little lecture style, I guess, now that I have a captive audience. And maybe you'll glean a little bit more information from it if you do follow along with me. So without any further ado, let's read this thing. It says, Looking Death in the Face by John Cagg and Clancy Martin. This is written December 26th, the day after Christmas, 2016. Now, this picture here is actually a picture of a bunch of archaeologists around the body of the mummy of Ramses II, who this article and who Ozymandias are going to be based on. Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, was born about 3,000 years ago and is widely regarded as the most powerful pharaoh of the Egyptian Empire. The Greeks called him Ozymandias. When he died in 1213 BCE, he left a series of temples and palaces that stretched from Syria to Libya and countless statues and monuments commemorating his impressive reign. By the 19th century, when European colonization reached Egypt, most of these statues were gone and the ones that remained were in ruin. In 1816, the Italian archaeologist Giovanni Belzoni discovered a bust of Ramses and acquired it for the British Museum. This is when Ozymandias' life, in one respect, truly began. Ozymandias, perhaps the most famous sonnet Percy Bysshe Shelley ever penned, was written in 1817 as the remains of the famous statue were slowly transported from the Middle East to England. Shelley imagines a traveler recounting a journey in a distant desert. Like Belzoni, Shelley's character discovers a great bust, half buried in the windswept sands. Next to the wreckage is a pedestal where the monument once stood, and inscribed in shallow letters on the slab of rock says, quote, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair." Of course, as Shelley's poem tells us, nothing remained of these works or the King of Kings, just sand. So the poem's message is perennial, meaning it's everlasting. It's always going to be topical. It's always going to have some sort of, connection to what's currently going on in the world. And its theme, its message is this: all of this will be over soon, faster than you think. Fame has a shadow, and that shadow is simply the inevitable decline. See, the year in 2016 had delivered a string of deaths that served as a bracing reminder of that inevitability. People died like Prince, Nancy Reagan, David Bowie, Elie Wiesel, Bill Cunningham, Muhammad Ali, Gordie Howe, Merle Haggard, Patty Duke, John Glenn. Of course, it was also a year that ushered in a new empire and simultaneously the specter of apocalypse. And that is obviously a reference to the 2016 election, the passing of the guard between Presidents Obama and President Trump. The year's end is a time to take account of kingdoms built, but also the sheer rapidity of their destruction. It's a chance to come to terms with the existential fragility that is overlooked in most of our waking hours and that must be faced even by the greatest among us. So, there are lots of ways to look at this poem, all right? But the way that I keep coming back to it isn't so much about, just how fame might be fleeting or importance might be fleeting or that life simply is fleeting. I kind of look at it like, empires and the power that empires hold is very fragile and it's very fleeting. And it's something that you could think one minute you have everything figured out, you have control over everything. And then the next minute, all you are is just a headless or a head of a statue all by itself in the middle of this desert somewhere with nothing else around you. Right. And so I just think like 2 months ago, right? Things were normal. Business as usual. There was nothing weird going on. Heck, 2 months ago, we were all convinced that, we were going to just have another regular old boring school year that was going to eventually wrap up in May and we'd get to have a fun summer of concerts and sports and hanging out with friends. And, it was just, everything was normal 2 months ago, right? It's 2020. We have such a grasp on technology and science and medicine and information, right? We got it all figured out. Now look at us. Like, President Trump keeps calling it the invisible enemy, right? That slide that I showed you guys a few slides earlier of the political cartoon of the David versus Goliath. It's so crazy how something so small that you think we have figured out, how it's just shut down the world, essentially. So when I read this poem, that's what I see, is just how quickly the tables can turn, how quickly we can go from thinking we are the king of kings as a society, as a people, as a species, right? Look on our work, she mighty in despair. I'm always amazed at the construction that's going on as far as buildings of roads and things like that around here. And I'm always telling my wife, that's what sets us apart. We're like the only animal that can affect its environment in such a way like we do. So look on our work, she mighty in despair. Nothing's going to stop us. We have science, we have medicine, we have knowledge on our side, information. But 2020, and we're shut down as a society, as a people. It's wild. So I just wanted to share with you kind of my reasoning behind why I wanted us to work with this poem for a while. And I kind of wanted to give you my take on things, and maybe you share those opinions. Maybe you don't. Maybe the poem resonates in a different way with you. As you're going to see through some of the things we do with this, there are so many takes on this poem. That's why I love it so much. But it is extremely topical. It's something that I think you guys are going to enjoy talking about, something you're going to enjoy working with and writing about. So without any further ado, I'll let you go on to the next slide. Peace.